It's the Real News Network. I'm Shamini Pierce coming to you from Baltimore. President-elect Donald Trump announced yesterday David Friedman is his choice for U.S. ambassador to Israel. Friedman is a right-wing lawyer well known for his support for Israel's colonization project in the occupied Palestinian West Bank. Let's have a look at what he had to say recently about the Trump presidency and its positions, or what it should be when it comes to Israel.
The Trump administration will never pressure Israel into a two-state solution or any other solution that is against the wishes of the Israeli people.
On to talk about this appointment and implications for Israel and U.S. foreign policy is Shir Hever, our correspondent based in Heidelberg, Germany. Thanks for joining us, Shir.
Thanks for having me, Shamini.
So, Shir, elaborate on who David Friedman is and the kinds of positions he's taken on Israel-Palestine conflict.
We don't know that much about David Friedman. He's kind of an outsider to the political system. His economic views are libertarian. He's an Orthodox national Jew. He was Trump's bankruptcy lawyer, and therefore he became his advisor and was lifted into that position of ambassador. And he made some statements about Israel-Palestine, and those statements are cause for concern.
And what are the implications for Palestinians and U.S. foreign policy? Because I imagine with an ambassador like this in place, they're going to be at odds with the international community on Palestine.
Yeah, well, first of all, the United States had a very clear policy, foreign policy towards Israel-Palestine for the past 50 years, which, at least on the official level, it rejected the Israeli occupation and colonization project, understanding that completely abandoning the framework of international law in its support for Israel, for military support for Israel, the United States would actually lose its legitimacy in the region and increase the chance that the forces resisting Israeli colonization would gain a lot of international popularity. So when an ambassador is unabashedly calling for more colonization of the occupied Palestinian territory and calling for the transfer of the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, that is a very clear sign that Trump wants to abandon this line and no longer even pay lip service to international law. It should be noted there is no embassy in Jerusalem at all. No country in the world recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and opens embassies there because most of Jerusalem is under military occupation and illegal annexation. So if that's going to change, that would put the United States in a very isolated position in terms of what's the international community's position on Israel's policies.
Now, Shir, how is the Israeli newspapers and, of course, the state responding to this appointment?
I would say most Israelis are very concerned about this appointment because Friedman represents a branch of Jewish religion, which is a rather small branch, actually. Within Israel, this branch of religion is very closely associated with the colonial movement. And therefore, one political party is now celebrating and already made statements how wonderful it is that Friedman was appointed. But for all the other political parties and various groups within Israel, and of course for Palestinians, this is very concerning. After all, the job of an ambassador is to be a diplomat. He's supposed to bring people together to help them talk to each other, to bring across different messages. And instead, Trump here selected somebody who has a very, very clear line, completely delegitimizing any other political or religious group. There are even religious groups, religious Jewish groups that are very concerned. What does it mean when an Orthodox national Jew, whose position is that women, for example, are not allowed to pray at the Wailing Wall, would become ambassador? And that's an issue that's very important for a lot of American Jews. So that's another issue.
And how is the government responding to this?
Well, there hasn't been an official government response yet, as far as I could see. But interestingly, Netanyahu already after knowing about this appointment, has given a speech, has given an interview for 60 Minutes in which he talked about the two-state solution, 2 states for 2 peoples, which is a very strange kind of interview, as if Netanyahu actually adopting positions that are completely delegitimized by Friedman, because Friedman called J Street, which is a pro-Israeli Jewish organization within the United States, calling for the 2 states. He called them capos. Capos were the Nazi collaborators, Jewish Nazi collaborators in the prison camps and death camps during the Second World War. And this sort of statement by Friedman, of course, completely delegitimizes J Street, which is essentially a peace organization, not exactly a peace organization I support, but nevertheless a group calling for 2-state solution, which is within the confines of international law. And Netanyahu, in this interview, seems to signal the fact that if Trump is going to adopt the most nationalistic, messianic, colonialistic version of Israeli nationalism and just adopt it as if it was part of his policy and promote it, the result could be catastrophic because it would inevitably lead to military and violent clashes in Palestine.
All right, Shir, I thank you for now. I'm sure you'll be keeping an eye on this and looking forward to your further reports on this appointment in the future. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Shamini.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.